Historic news today in the world of cannabis. The DEA says it will reclassify the drug to a less dangerous category, acknowledging that it has a lower potential to be abused. The move will not, however, legalize cannabis nationwide. It still has to go through the White House Office of Management and Budget for approval.
Joining us to explain what this could mean for Michigan is Thomas Lavigne, an attorney with Cannabis Counsel. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
So this is a pretty big deal. This is something that proponents of cannabis have been calling for quite some time. If this is approved, can you explain what the implications would be?
Well, on the positive side, it will improve banking as well as taxes. These companies pay an effective 80% on taxes right now. And then also medical research. So these are all positive. However, it still is not really lining up with the state laws. And I think any good public policy should have tried to resolve and make those two meet up. Right now, the state laws do not require physician prescription nor distribution through a pharmacy, right? And Schedule III drugs right now require that. So there's some positive aspects, especially the medical research we're excited about. And HHS came out with a risk profile, showing how it's not as dangerous as a lot of the pharmaceuticals, and that it has these medically accepted uses. So we're hoping to see some good research in that area. And acceptance in our hospitals, I'm still getting calls from patients at hospitals who are being discriminated against. Oh, they can't be on the transplant list. Mothers having children being threatened by CPS. So the hospitals and the medical schools really need to step it up, and this Schedule III should permit for that.
So you're saying this would pave the way for more research to potentially change some of those policies?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, as you mentioned, there's still a lot of people on the fence in terms of cannabis use for different reasons. What are your thoughts on why this move would be a positive one?
Well, I think the medical acceptance, it's real. It's been a medicine for thousands of years. It's been unduly stigmatized, and that needs to change. But it really needs to be descheduled. Tobacco is not on the schedules. Alcohol is not on the schedules. And that would better line up with all these state laws. Over 40 states allow for marijuana without a prescription, without having to go to a pharmacist. So it's a step in the right direction. Maybe they'd carve something out after doing this. A Pedialex was originally scheduled 5, but then they ended up taking it off the schedules. That's a CBD medicine, FDA approved for seizures. And so maybe something similar will happen to that. And hopefully it's a road to descheduling.
So you mentioned tobacco, alcohol, not scheduled. Cannabis was previously Schedule 1, right?
Yes.
What else is in Schedule 1?
Heroin, LSD, these substances that have no medical value. So that was intellectually dishonest for a long time. And at least they're starting to tell the truth a little bit, shall I say. But really it needs to be descheduled to really have a proper treatment. So it lines up with these state laws.
Have you seen any example? Is this how that process would work? Do you tend to be downgraded and then descheduled, or is there really even a precedent for this?
Well, that Pedialex example was a good one because the FDA did approve a CBD-based medicine. Initially, they scheduled it to Schedule 5. And then they decided, well, after the Farm Bill deemed all cannabis with THC level less than 0.3%, that really should be 1%, but 0.3% is industrial hemp, and therefore descheduled the Pedialex. So there is precedent to eventually deschedule it, which is really what needs to happen.
Why do you think it's been such an uphill battle to try to get people to change the way they think about cannabis use?
Well, the stigmatization has been huge, for 100 years. From Reefer Madness, the old movie, propaganda movie, to our medical system really not respecting this medicine. While they've been prescribing pills that if you take too many, you die, instead of something that has never killed anyone. It's just never made any sense to me. The courts ordering kids to take the pills that make you die if you take too many, and don't you touch that cannabis that your doctor recommended. We put up with that for years and years in our courts here.
It seems like a tide has turned, though. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where it was fully illegal all over the country. And where are we at now? Are half the states, is that right, where it's legalized?
Over 40 states now have
majority.
some form, yes. So we really have turned the tide, and I think that the citizenry had to put it on the ballot, though. The legislatures didn't solve this for us. You know, it was a people's uprising, really, that got this done. People standing out in the rain collecting signatures over and over until they were able to get it on these ballots. So that initiative, that power of direct democracy is very important, the petition drive to get these things on the ballot, because our legislature falls down on the job all the time.
What are you hoping to see in the long term in terms of all of this?
I'd really like this medicine to be respected in our hospitals. I'd like to see a doctor come out and say, why don't you take this instead of the pills? And we are starting to see that more and more. But still, the medical schools have inadequate education of our doctors. There's an endocannabinoid system that's part of our physiology, for example, that isn't taught in the all but, you know, maybe 2 or 3 medical schools even teach about this. Can you imagine leaving out the nervous system from your textbooks just because you're afraid of cannabis? There's an endocannabinoid system that this medicine plugs into that needs to be taught in our medical schools.
All right. Well, as we explained, just a huge moment. We'll see what comes next. This is
Yes.
Thomas Lavigne, attorney with the Cannabis Counsel. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.